Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Speak Smart podcast. I'm Jane, and I'm super excited to be here today with my amazing co-host, Lucy.
Thanks, Jane. It's great to be back. I'm Lucy, and we're both thrilled to dive into a topic that honestly I think a lot of our listeners will find really useful and, well, relatable.
You know, Lucy, you just used it perfectly, and it highlights exactly what we're going to talk about today, the phrase "I think." It's everywhere, isn't it? Especially with English learners.
It absolutely is. And look, let's be clear from the start, there's nothing inherently wrong with I think. It's a perfectly valid English phrase. But the problem arises when it becomes, shall we say, a linguistic crutch.
A crutch, that's a great way to put it. It's like when you're learning to walk and you rely on something to hold you up. For many English learners, I think becomes that thing. It's their go-to for pretty much any opinion, observation, or even just a simple statement.
Exactly. And it's not just beginners. I've worked with advanced learners who, despite having an incredible vocabulary and grammar, still pepper their sentences with I think constantly. It can make their speech sound a little repetitive and maybe a little less confident sometimes.
Repetitive is the key word. When you're trying to sound more natural, more like a native speaker, variety is crucial. And native speakers, while they use I think, also have a whole arsenal of other phrases to express opinions, beliefs, and even uncertainty.
Definitely. So our goal today isn't to say never use I think, because you totally can and should sometimes. Instead, we want to equip you with a toolkit of alternatives so you can choose the best phrase for the right situation and really elevate your spoken English.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. Lucy, what's one of the most common scenarios where I think gets overused, and what's a great alternative?
Okay, so a big one is when you're giving your opinion, right? Instead of always saying, I think this movie is great, you could say, in my opinion, this movie is great. Or, even more casually, to me, this movie is fantastic. That already sounds a little more sophisticated.
Oh, I love "to me," it's so concise and natural. Another really common one for opinions, especially when you want to sound a bit more assertive or reflective, is "I believe." I believe that sustainable living is crucial for our future. It carries a bit more weight than "I think."
Yes, I believe is excellent. It shows conviction. And sticking with that idea of expressing a strong opinion, what about from my perspective, or as far as I'm concerned? Those are great for framing your viewpoint, especially in a discussion or debate.
Yes, from my perspective, the new policy has some serious flaws. That's so much stronger and more nuanced than "I think the new policy has flaws." It acknowledges that other perspectives exist, but you're stating yours clearly.
Exactly. And let's not forget the phrases that soften an opinion or show a bit of uncertainty, which is a big reason why people use I think. For example, if you're not 100% sure, but you're giving an impression, you could say, it seems to me that, or it appears that.
Oh, it seems to me is golden if you're looking at a situation and making an inference. It seems to me that they're having a really good time at the party. It's observational rather than just a blunt "I think they're having a good time."
Totally. Or if you're making a guess or a mild suggestion, instead of I think it's going to rain, you could go for I guess it's going to rain or I suppose it's going to rain. Those convey a slightly different nuance of speculation.
Yeah, "I guess" and "I suppose" are brilliant for that subtle hint of "I'm not entirely certain, but this is my best guess." It's very natural. What about when you're just stating something that's obvious or generally accepted, but you still want to frame it as your viewpoint?
In those cases, you could use phrases like the way I see it or if you ask me, which are quite informal but very common. The way I see it, we need to completely rethink our strategy. Or, if you ask me, that's a terrible idea.
Those are fantastic, very native sounding. They convey confidence and a personal touch. So we've got, in my opinion, I believe, from my perspective, it seems to me, it appears that, I guess, I suppose, the way I see it, if you ask me. That's quite a list already.
It is, and we're just scratching the surface. What about when you want to make a suggestion or give advice but you want to soften it a little? I'd say is great for that. I'd say you should definitely visit that new cafe. It's less direct than I think you should go.
Oh, I'd say is one of my favorites. It's so effortlessly natural. It feels like you're sharing a friendly recommendation. Or I'd imagine if you're making a reasonable assumption. I'd imagine they'll be busy tonight, it's Friday after all.
Yes, I'd imagine is perfect for an educated guess. And this brings us to an important point. It's not just about replacing I think with a different phrase, it's about choosing the right phrase to convey the exact nuance you intend. It adds so much richness to your communication.
Absolutely. It shows a command of the language beyond just basic vocabulary. It shows you understand the subtleties. Think about it. I think it's a good idea versus I genuinely believe that's a brilliant idea. The second one carries so much more impact.
Totally. And sometimes you don't even need a phrase to replace I think. You can just state your opinion directly. For example, instead of I think it's important to study every day, you could simply say it's important to study every day. When the opinion is clear, you don't always need to announce it.
That's such a crucial point, Lucy. Often I think is just filler. We use it out of habit or perhaps because we're translating directly from our native language, where a similar phrase might be more common. But in English, directness can often sound more confident and natural.
Exactly. So how do our listeners start implementing this? Because it's one thing to hear the alternatives, but it's another to actually integrate them into your spontaneous speech.
That's the million-dollar question. My first piece of advice would be conscious effort. For the next week, try to catch yourself every time you're about to say, I think. Just pause for a second and see if you can swap it for one of the alternatives we've discussed.
Yeah, awareness is step one. And don't beat yourself up if you slip up. It's a habit, and habits take time to change. Maybe pick just one or two new phrases to focus on each day. Don't try to learn all 10 at once.
That's a smart strategy, small, manageable steps. Another thing you can do is actively listen. When you're watching movies, TV shows, or even listening to podcasts like ours, pay attention to how native speakers express opinions, beliefs, and uncertainties. What phrases do they use instead of I think?
That's brilliant advice, Jane. Immersion is key. You'll start noticing patterns you never did before. And don't be afraid to imitate. Try repeating sentences you hear that use these alternative phrases. It helps your mouth get used to the new sounds and structures.
Absolutely. Repetition builds muscle memory, even for your mouth. Another tip, try journaling or writing short paragraphs. When you're writing, you have a bit more time to think consciously about your word choice. Try to write a whole paragraph without using I think even once, and force yourself to use different opinion-expressing phrases.
Oh, I love that. Writing is a fantastic way to practice new patterns without the pressure of a real-time conversation. You can experiment, erase, rewrite, and then when you're speaking, those patterns will start to come more naturally.
Exactly. And don't forget practice partners. If you have someone you regularly practice English with, challenge each other. Say, okay, for the next 10 minutes, neither of us can say I think. Let's see how many different ways we can express our ideas.
That's a fun challenge. It turns it into a game which makes learning less intimidating, and it's a safe space to make mistakes and learn from each other. The goal isn't perfection from day one, but progress.
Exactly, Lucy. Progress over perfection. And this isn't just about sounding more native. It's about sounding more articulate, more confident, and more nuanced in your expression. It shows a greater command of the language, and that's something to strive for.
I couldn't agree more. When you start using a wider range of these phrases, you'll notice your conversations become more engaging. You'll be able to express subtle differences in your certainty, your emphasis, and your overall attitude towards a topic.
It's about adding color to your language, isn't it? I think is a primary color, but English has a whole palette of shades and tones for expressing your thoughts.
Such a great analogy, Jane. So to recap some of those fantastic alternatives, in my opinion, I believe, from my perspective, it seems to me, it appears that, I guess, I suppose, the way I see it, if you ask me, I'd say, I'd imagine.
And remember, sometimes you don't need any of them. Just state your point directly. The key is variety and intentionality. Think about what you really want to say and choose the phrase that best conveys it.
Absolutely. Start small, be consistent, and pay attention to how native speakers use these phrases. You'll be amazed at how quickly your conversational English transforms.
We truly hope this episode gives you some practical tools to enhance your English speaking. It's a simple change that can make a huge difference in how natural and confident you sound.
Definitely. Give these tips a try this week and let us know how it goes. We love hearing about your progress. You can find us on all the usual podcast platforms.
That's right. So for me, Jane, and for Lucy, thank you so much for tuning into the Speak Smart podcast. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye for now, everyone.